conversion, I think probably referrals are like, if we're looking at number of referrals received, I think it's safe to say that they're down a little bit, right? I mean, right, we're just lead production, and I've surveyed a few people, so lead production is down, right? It's just a little bit slower. I think, I think things will start picking up. The bond market had its best month in 25 years, so that's great news. I think that's all, that's awesome, right? But still, referrals are down a little bit, so we need to maximize and make the most out of everyone we get. So just out of curiosity, we'll go around the horn. Just to start, like, if you're talking to a real estate agent and, maybe it's a first meeting, you're having coffee or, meeting at the office or whatever, how do you want to be referred? So I'm curious, what do you say to that realtor? Like, if they said to you, hey, Aaron, David, Justin, hey, how do you like to be referred? What would you say? Like, what's the ideal way for you to be referred or introduced? So just really curious, and I'm just looking at the participants, so just go down the horn. So Aaron, why don't you go, and they'll go Andy, and then David. Aaron, you on? Hello? All right, Andy, go. Andy, you go.
Yeah. So recently, was the question kind of the lead into how I'd like to be referred?
Yeah. How do you want to be connected? How specifically the connection, right? Three-way email? Do you want them just to call you? Like, what's the best way?
Yeah. Typically, I mean, I ask how they prefer to send their clients, whether it's on a text, on a three-way text, on an email, or just, hey, if they're like hey, I just send out the information and I'll let them call you type of people. Obviously need to know that, but recently I've been kind of leading in.
Time out. Yeah. So let's say they say that, because I mean, I have a realtor I've been doing business with for 15 years, and he still does it that way, which is the least desirable way. Why?
Which way is the least desirable?
Meaning the realtor says,
here's 3 names. Gotcha.
They'll call you and say, hey, Mike, have you heard from Sally? Sally? No,
yeah.
I don't know. Oh, I gave her your information like 2 weeks ago. Dude, give me their information, right? Do a three-way connection so I can reach out. I'm not going to harass them, but I think that's a coaching opportunity, right, Andy? If they say, typically what I'll do is I'll give them your information along with like what are they thinking? Along with 2 others, maybe not. I don't know. But it is an opportunity for you to coach that realtor at that point, right?
Yeah, I think the lead in is a good question I've been using a lot is, toward the end of the meeting, once you've done all your discovery, is, hey, so now that we've talked through where you get your business and all, and what your goals are for next year, do you have any reservations in referring me your next buyer? And see what they say. If they say no, it sounds good. This could be after, like, I walk them through a smart start. Our close, I'd say, in our office is very much like a two-part close. It's the meeting that you have with the realtor, whether that's a coffee or lunch, and then it's, hey, come into our office. Now that we're like, yeah, I think we would be a good fit. Now it's come to the office, and the hard close can be in either of those meetings, but I prefer to do it after I've walked them through Smart Start.
Right.
And so it's, hey, do you have any reservations sending me your next client? No, this sounds good. Okay, great. How do you typically refer your client? Oh, well, I have 2 other people. Typically, I send 2 to 3 names. Okay, great. Well, we've found that with our process and Smart Start, it's really important to frame what this meeting is going to look like for your client, because in their experience, if they've bought it before, they've never gone through like a consultative meeting and an educational process. So we found that frame up is crucially important. So can I ask you, would you be opposed to connecting us on an email, and I can send you the verbiage and the wording that you can just copy and paste and put in an email, and connect them with with other resources, you know, if you'd like, but we just have found that this handoff has created the best conversion for us, just because, you know, framing up this meeting is really important so that they know what to expect. And, you know, that's what has made this most active. So, would you be opposed to me sending over the email that you can just copy and paste? You can tweak it if you need to, but you can copy and paste, send it to your here, and then we can make the connection.
Got it.
And then normally they're like, wow, that sounds great. And then I send it and they're like, hey, this looks great. Thank you so much. Boom. And it's like, just make it as easy as possible.
Yeah.
And that's something I've only really focused on, like, even in the last couple of weeks. And I've just started sending that email out saying, hey, thank you. You know, you do a great job of connecting me with your clients. However, I found this is working really well right now. And I'll just send that email, even if if it's someone I already work with, but maybe I don't prefer how they're sending me.
Right. I think that's awesome. Because and if you could send that, can you send that that email out to the group, or Benton, can you send that out to everybody?
I'll forward it to Benton, the last one I did.
Yeah.
Because I think it's such a good way to, instead of saying, because really what you're doing there, Andy, which is really good, is instead of saying, hey, don't refer to other lenders, you're not really saying that. However, what you are saying is, you know, the value of, you know, because if they know that the conversion ratio is going to be much better with you, right? Getting these shaky borrowers off the fence and getting them committed and all in on the process, and they're comfortable and they're happy. Well, isn't that going to translate into a higher closing percentage for the realtor too? Right. And then they might be thinking in their mind, well, shoot, I don't even think my other lenders meet with the clients. I don't even know if they have a initial call with them. You know, like, what are they doing? You know, I think it gets them thinking about their current lenders and what are they doing, right? You know, I think we talked a couple of weeks ago, or I don't know, it was may have been through like an email or text string, that like right now it's so important to frame the value of what we do for our borrowers, right? Because there's so many that are just wishy-washy, right? There's just so many that are they're non-committal.
Yeah, and too, if you're asking your discovery questions in the meeting and they say, you know, it's hard getting over the obstacles of high rates and affordability, a lot of first-time home buyers, and they're just not willing. It's like, just draw back on that pain. Say, well, when you're in the close, and you mentioned that you've had an issue over the last, 6 to 12 months, especially with first-time home buyers,
right,
getting them off the fence. This is why it's just another tie-in.
Right. And Andy, and I'm assuming you're doing that sort of at the second meeting. So that first meeting is really discovery, asking a ton of questions, because really, if you think about it, the great part about a two-part meeting, right, is the first, in my opinion, the first meeting is getting to know them, but also asking a ton of questions, figuring out what their challenges are, and then saying, you know what, I think I really enjoyed meeting. I think we can really help each other, and I'm going to put some thought around what we talked about today, but I'd love to have you maybe stop by the office, show you some things that we do, and I think we can really have an impact on your business, right? And then you're sort of setting it up and framing it, and then boom, when you have them come back, that's your opportunity to show the solutions.
Yeah.
Right.
And too, if they're willing to meet with you the second time, obviously they're interested enough and they're invested enough in what their clients get from the mortgage process. So it just bodes well for eventually working together. I heard an interesting line when it comes to realtor meetings that I thought was pretty cool. So out of 3 meetings, you're really going to want to work with the agent, but they might not want to work with you. One of the meetings, you're probably not going to want to work with that agent, but they may want to work with you. And then the third is, as the averages go, both of you guys are going to want to work together, and that's going to be probably a really good opportunity. So it's like, out of those 3, just play the numbers, have enough meetings.
Yeah. 100%. No, that's great stuff, Andy. And then also too, for the benefit of the group, where do you want to have that second meeting, and where do you absolutely not want to have that second meeting?
Second meeting, I really want it to be in our office, and we do full Smart Start, all about you form, welcome board.
Yeah.
They fill it out in the lobby. We get them something to drink. We escort them back to our conference room or my office, do the meeting, the whole thing, so that they experience it. I don't want to do it at a coffee shop. Every once in a while, I've gone to so-and-so's office to do it,
Yeah.
which I don't mind, as long as they have, a whiteboard.
Right.
The other day, Michael, I had a meeting at the Western office, and they have whiteboards.
Yeah.
I was like, this is great. Now with realtors, it's a little different, but I really want to get them to come in to experience exactly what the clients are going to experience.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. We've all had the meetings at the Starbucks coffee shops in the past where, the cappuccino maker's going off. It's so loud. It's jam packed. It's like, people that are 6 inches away from you. It's like, it's not a good place to meet. It just isn't. So absolutely bring it back to the office. So I know we got a little off tangent, but that was good stuff, Andy. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm just looking at the board. Glorcell. What's the preferred, how do you, what's your preferred way of getting connected, and how do you coach the agent on that?
I really like to use Calendly. So my preferred way to get connected is for that agent to, now granted, this is not on the very first meeting, because typically I do kind of like Andy, I want to have them see a Smart Start or join a Smart Start first. But preferred way, if they just say, how do you like to be referred? On my Calendly, I have a preset, like a 10-minute mortgage consultation. And so I tell the agent, hey, next time you meet with your client or your next client, just go ahead and schedule them on my calendar for a quick 10-minute mortgage consultation. It's the intro call. So that's the best way to refer me, because it's already on my calendar. The agent gets excited because they're going to get a follow-up call pretty quickly. They know the quicker they get them to talk to a lender, the quicker they can start that pre-approval process.
Right.
And so just using Calendly along with Simple Nexus, I also have my, I share the app with the agents on our first meeting. Really, the easiest way to introduce that is the mortgage calculator. Hey, you can use this with your clients to help estimate monthly payments while they're out looking. And then they share the app with the client. And then, if an agent shares the app, when that client comes into your Simple Nexus, they're already connected to that realtor.
Right.
So you already know who sent the lead. But typically my favorite way and best way is put them on my calendar for a mortgage consultation. And I have about 4 or 5 agents that do that pretty consistently. And it's pretty awesome to walk into a week and already have 3 or 4 leads scheduled on your calendar.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And I think the key there is you're not, or the agent is not sending an email saying, oh, here's Glorcell's signature, click on her Calendly and schedule it. Because again, you're losing the control there. But I think the key, if I'm understanding you correctly, is the agent is taking the initiative and the control with the borrower to schedule it for them and with them, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So that's great.
Because they
I think
spend a lot more time with the borrower than we do, really.
Right.
They're driving them around town.
Absolutely. And I know the agents that you're working with, they're, obviously super tight with their customers. They take control, and those are the kind of agents that you want to work with. So that's fantastic. Because I think the key is having that initial conversation with the client, right? Because if you don't ever have that initial conversation, it's really hard to start what we do, right? It's hard to build rapport, the triangle of trust, right? It's hard to do that. So we have to control that process. So that's awesome. Justin, how about yourself? Justin, you there? All right, you may have stepped away. Natalie, let's go to you.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Good. The smoothest way that I find is I have that conversation with the realtor, and then they send a 3-way email out with the introduction of I am their preferred lender, the experience that they've had with me, and then they give me the client's name, phone number, email and that client is emailed on, it's kind of like an intro email. I then send out a follow-up email and a phone call to the client and schedule then that initial consultation and then the Smart Start and take it from there. I do, like I find that that's just a nice, easy, smooth process.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. I mean, the good news is on a three-way email, at least you have the ability to reach back out, right? And it's
Yeah.
tracked, it's on, right? You have it, it's on paper. So when you have that initial conversation with the client and you're like, how long is that call? What do you talk about?
Usually about 15 minutes, and I'm getting to know them, answering any initial questions that they have, and then setting up for the Smart Start. At that time, I also explain our app. I use Simple Nexus. I
Yeah.
find it very easy and user-friendly, and my clients like it. I do also sell the mortgage calculator piece of it. They do like that, and I talk about the importance of being pre-approved all the way, but at least pre-qualified before even stepping out into the street to look at a house. So I do, in my follow-up email, send them that link, and if they can fill out the application, all that, then I have a good background to at least target off of for that Smart Start.
Got it. Okay, cool. And I think the key is, and I think we've talked about this before, Glorcel, we've talked about it, right, is trying not to go too far on that first call, right? I think definitely triangle trust, how do you know the realtor? Oh, let me tell you how, I know Bill, and then did Bill tell you how how I'm able to help his clients? So you want to frame that meeting, and I think it's always going back to the meeting. It's easy to get, sometimes we're all, tunnel vision on app, get docs, get pre-qual done, but, framing the meeting is super important. So not going too far, Glor. So we've talked about it in the past. Like I know that you used to set a timer because sometimes that initial call went too long and we're giving away too much information. So trying to keep it to maybe 5-10 minutes, 15 maybe right now if it's a really good call. So
yeah, I'm definitely at fault for that. And that is something that I've been working on, of dialing back and not giving out my entire library, too soon.
Right. Got it. Cool. Awesome. Who's next? Aaron, you there? Aaron's not there.
Yeah,
Jesse.
I'm good. I'm good now.
Okay.
I'm
Back
good.
to Aaron. Okay, but how about you?
Still talking about how to get them to refer.
Yeah, how do you like to be connected? What's your first step?
Yeah, basically it's, trying to frame it from their perspective of maybe, shortening up the incubation period and capture rate with the leads that they generate. So it's kind of like a, value add to them that, hey, if this is my system, will help us, keep them in our system, get them in the system, keep them in kind of going forward. So I think that's the first thing. And then it looks like, yes, as soon as I can get the information and follow up and just teach them that control thing, hey, you ever get that where they say, yeah, I'll follow up, and they never do? Like you're saying, hey, have you heard from so-and-so? And I'm like, no. So
Right.
most of the realtors can relate to that. So you just kind of give them some pain examples of why this would be good for them.
Got it. Yep. Perfect. Good deal. David.
And then you also get into like how you want to be referred, which we used to refer to that as refer on a pedestal. Hey, if I were to refer you, what would you want me to say about you?
Right. And I think that's good to ask, right? Like, how do they want to be referred? Like, is there anything specific that you'd like for me to mention? Right.
Yeah.
So
the other piece of that is getting the Smart Start terminology kind of in their brain, because whenever they mention somebody, it's like, oh, they sound like a great candidate for a Smart Start. So they're like, in their mind, they're like, oh, you need to get Smart Started.
Right.
So they're like advocating for that because they understand the value of it. So it's identifying someone as a candidate for a Smart Start meeting.
Yeah.
And I had a perfect example of a text on Sunday with a realtor, and she's like, they're trying to do it on their own, and I'm trying to tell them, so it's funny. She's one of my best agents, but it was funny. It was like, okay, this is the point. This is like a perfect example of why we do what we do and how we do it.
Yeah. Absolutely. When it goes off the rails, they realize the value.
Correct. Like she was like, they're not following our system, like on Sunday, like, sorry, I'm trying to, it was interesting. It just kind of jumped out at me like, okay, this is working. And now these clients are not really, they're taking some convincing to get into our system. So it was just kind of cool that we were both on the same page.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. Cool. Thank you. David.
Hey there. So for me, I have not focused as much on how to refer me. I've been more on how to refer them. That's always been my, like, when they'll refer me a client and then I'm kind of pitching them of what a great agent they are, why they should
Sure.
use them, as opposed to, the opposite way. And I think, hearing some of these comments and suggestions are actually, a good reversal for me, to kind of frame that with the agent better of how you present it to me. Because, I'll get a call, I get a text, an email, whatever, hey, did you hear from Bob? Like you said, and no, I never heard from Bob. Who's Bob?
Right.
And so I think I have to do a better job of that, of setting that up, the expectation on my side of how to refer me better so that I can do that follow-up and, keep them in the game before they go elsewhere and move on to somebody else.
Exactly. Because if you never get them on the phone, you can't edify them. You can't do the
Exactly.
triangle of trust if you can't get them on the phone. Right.
That's right.
If you never have a conversation with them. So I think that's the key there is say, hey, look, for me to, it's super important for the client to know that they're really well taken care of. For example, I had a smart start yesterday via Zoom. This young, gosh, just out of school, 2 years, just about 2 years. She's a nurse, young. And I knew it was a Zillow lead from the realtor like a year ago. She put it on hold. She wasn't ready. She reconnected with the agent. The agent's super good. His name's Darren. He's just really aggressive follow-up, but he's a great guy, great agent. And I knew she didn't know him real well. So I'm like, oh, how do you know? How'd you meet Darren? Oh, she's like, I don't know. It was just one of those real estate apps. I don't know. I can't remember. Maybe Zillow or something. Like, oh my gosh, most of our business, almost all of our business is just referred from family, friends, prior customers. So it's so ironic that you happen to find him on Zillow. Like he's an amazing agent. You're in really, really good hands. You got really lucky that you bumped into him. And this is what I like about Darren, and I'll go in. She's like, oh my God, that's so good to hear. Because she's like, I wasn't sure. Sounds like a nice guy. And she's like, it's really, really nice to hear that. So that's, I think if the agents understand that, hey, look, if we can get on the phone with them for 10 minutes,
right,
going to really help that conversion. So them understanding it and framing it to your realtors that way,
I think huge.
Is big. So awesome. Thanks, David. Jesse.
Michael, just to let you know, sorry, I'm back. I heard you calling earlier. I couldn't grab it.
Okay.
Though.
Yeah, Justin, go ahead, man.
Oh, okay. So when a realtor, I always ask and bring it up, and because 99% of the time they say, oh, I'll just give them your name and number. And as we've talked about many times, it just doesn't work. And I tell them that I don't ask. I tell them, I say, when you send clients over, the best way I've found to connect and make sure we get them approved quickly is to do one of two things: either put us on a group text so we can start communicating, and that triggers me to give them a call.
Yeah.
Or call me and give me their number, and I will call them and pursue them until I speak with them.
Right.
So there's a lot more that could go into that, but that's really what I keep it to. Try to keep it simple for them.
Yeah. No, that's really good. And also too, I found younger agents, obviously they're texters, right? The nice thing about a three-way text is you have their phone number, right?
Yeah.
Three-way emails are I get them all the time. They're good, but a lot of times there's no phone number on there, right? Three-way text, you got the numbers. So I think that's good for sure.
Yeah, I've had just recently an example of a three-way email, and the guy won't reply to email, and I called immediately and just said, hey, what's his number in case he doesn't reply, so I can give him a call this weekend. And
Right.
Yeah, emails do not work either.
Yeah. Yeah. So coaching the agent on the best way to do it. Important. Cool. Thanks, Justin.
Yeah.
Jesse, you're up.
So he actually said exactly what I was going to say. My best agent, she's really good about calling me and saying, I'm referring this person to you. I'm going to text your number to them and then their number to you, and I'll have it literally in minutes. And then I can reach out and say, hey, you just talked to my agent. Let's see about coming into the office and doing the Smart Start. So, anyways, that's probably my favorite. I actually don't get a lot of three-way emails, and I don't know if that's just the agents that I use or the nature of the business of where I'm at. I don't know, but text is usually the preferred and most often way for me. Yeah,
it's great. I mean, it's instant. It pops up. You got the numbers. I mean, it's a good way to hop on the phone quickly. So
sharing contacts is like the greatest thing that's ever happened, I think, because that's normally what I get. I get a contact card from that person, from my realtor. So,
yep, that's good. That's really good. Cool. Who is next? Vanessa, are you with us?
Good morning.
How
I'm going to turn my camera on. I'm new, so this is my first meeting, and I have not had a meeting with the new Smart Start materials, so I'm excited.
Awesome. Vanessa, what office are you out of?
I'm in Colorado, out of Guild in Golden.
Oh, okay, cool. Welcome.
Yeah, so but I do a variety of these things. I do prefer a three-way text or email, or just the direct information so I can get on the phone and get it going.
Got it. And do you find yourself coaching your realtors on how to best connect to you?
If I can, if they're open to it. I'm just kind of 1 year back into mortgage, in a new market. So I feel like I'm in rookie status.
Rookie 2.0.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm getting there. I really like what the Smart Start Academy does, and I feel like it's getting me in the door and giving me like a backing.
Cool. Well, welcome. Super happy. Glad that you're on the call. Welcome. That's great. Thanks for your input. Let's go. Hey, Rob, what do you think, Rob?
I prefer the three-way text between the client, the realtor, and myself. That way, I think having the phone number is the most important thing. Because in my experience, getting set up via email with somebody is really easy for somebody to screen their emails. But then, like, for example, yesterday we have a guy that, we did some initial texting, all of that after the introduction with the realtor back in October. And he just was incredibly flaky, couldn't really get him, and wouldn't commit to anything. And so I let him sit essentially for a month, just letting Will, the realtor, know that he wasn't replying. And then so yesterday I'm like, I'm just gonna go ahead and call him. And so called him yesterday, and I guess he had got my number, it slipped his mind, and so I got him on the phone. He's back, and I'm like, oh yeah, I really do need to be doing that. And so potentially meeting next week. Good. And with an email, I think it's just much more easier to kind of just disregard that form of contact. And so I prefer to have their phone number. But yeah, majority of times for me, I have the most success of being set up on a three-way text with them, using that text to either find time to talk to them later in the day or the following day. And then at that point being like, hey, just by the way, what's the best email for you? I'll go ahead and send you an application link in the time being, and get that in front of them before our first conversation if possible.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And you're right. I think, and again, I think it's, people get so many emails nowadays, right? We're bombarded. Texts, they're starting, right? The spam texts are starting, but it's still instant. And if they're, if they're agents on there, or, even if they're not, you've got their number. We are in sales, right? We sell. This is what we are. We're salespeople, right? At the end of the day. And if we cannot make contact, it doesn't work that well. So yeah, that's important. McCain, how about you, bud?
Yeah, I'm similar to, I have the same template as Andy for the email template that I like to send out. Cool. But I also prefer to do it via text, just for some of the reasons Rob was talking about. I feel like when you get put in a three-way text, you're kind of obligated to respond, especially if the referral source that's texting in there is someone that the client knows well. They're like, oh, okay, you know, I kind of, they've teed me up here. I kind of have to answer this.
Right.
And then, you know, at that point, I'll just text in there and be like, hey, great meeting you. I'll give you a call later this afternoon. And at that point, you go and schedule the smart start from there.
Right. Yep, exactly. You know, I think too, also generational type thing, right? The younger LOs, meaning younger than me for sure, they're texters, right? This is how they communicate. So jump on board, right? But also too, and again, just remember, like when we're having that initial call, and Brendan's so good about reminding me to do this, is we're always bringing it back to the meeting, right? There's nothing wrong with scheduling that meeting on that first call, regardless of what their credit, income, or assets are, right? Schedule the meeting. What's the worst thing that happens, right? You have a smart start with somebody that doesn't qualify right now, but maybe you're building a customer for, you know, we need closings next year too, right? So maybe it's a 6-month coaching or a year, 3 months, and you don't know who they know. So if they value the meeting and they value the information that you're giving them, you know, maybe they'll tell somebody, maybe they tell their boss that's buying $1 million home. I mean, we don't know. So our job is to meet as many people as we can, have as many smart starts as we can. So again, always thinking about framing the meeting, planting seeds, scheduling the meeting on that first call if you can. There's nothing wrong with doing it, but you have to be intentional about it. And I think that's what, like on my whiteboard, it's like I'm listing everything I need to talk about in my initial call. Reminders. So it's just conditioning your mind to do that. Who else? Parker.
Hey, good morning.
How about?
So what I like to do is definitely have good communication on the handoff, right? So it's, to me, it's a how important is it kind of thing, right? If it's right now, you pick up the phone and call me, text me. If the client says, you know, this is the agents talking to the clients. If the client says, you know, I can talk to them later today, or, you know, whatever, it can be a text, email. I also do the same thing Dolorcel did, which I picked up her trick, was to give them my calendar and they go on and just, you know, schedule people for me, which is great.
Yeah.
Nothing's
awesome.
better than waking up in the morning and seeing names on your calendar to talk to, right? So,
fantastic.
But other than that, I was kind of talking about this last night too. You know, the next step is the big thing, just the, you know, initial consultation, and then to get the second interview. That way you can kind of deep dive into what their goals are, figure out what they're trying to do, what their accomplishments, what they can do. And then that's when you offer, you know, the application. That's what I do. But when I do the smart start now, I'm starting to do a little bit different. And I'm not changing it or anything, but what I'm doing is I'm tailoring it closer to what's more important to the client. Right. It's like I'm not going to sit there and talk about something that they don't care about and lose them. Right. You're just going to lose interest.
So give me an example, and how do you determine that?
Well, it's kind of like if the client is real rate conscious or something about like that, or if it has, you know, they're concerned about their down payment, whatever it may be, what they're going to tell you once you start, you know, getting the common rapport, start talking to them, figuring out what they're trying to do, they're going to open up. Like most people do trying to buy something. Well, they're going to tell you that they had bankruptcy or they got an 800 credit score and $1 million in the bank. People like to brag or don't. So what I'm saying is tailor it to more of what they want to hear than just loading them with a bunch of information they don't give a crap about, right?
Right.
Because then they're just going to lose their interest.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good. It's great information.
The Smart Start packet is more of like each page is like a golf club, and that rather than like a script. But yeah, I definitely agree. Rather than just like powering through it just to do it.
Yeah. And I was doing that at first, and then, you know, I was sitting there on a 40-minute Zoom, but people kind of looking at me, dead staring at me like, you know.
Yeah.
But it's good information, but at the same time, you don't want to, you know, you want to, I kind of tailor it to what they want. you know,
Right.
and then it moves a little bit faster too, because I think if, you know, kind of like if you've got a D-top personality and you're sitting there trying to explain, you know, for 30 minutes different stuff and not hitting their high points,
Right.
then, you know, you can lose the interest.
Yeah.
Well, and I think too, asking the client, like, especially when you're doing like the All About You form, and if they don't, and by the way, if they don't fill it out, like some don't, like I had a young lady, Brian had sent the form for her to fill it out, and she filled it out, and she checked, literally, she checked 2 boxes at the top of what do you want to learn? That's it. Nothing else. So part of, you know, the first part of the call was just asking her questions, right? Because she didn't do it. And I think asking the client, what is your biggest concern, or what is your biggest anxiety about buying a home? Like, what are you thinking about? What are your, you know, and you ask them, they'll tell you, hey, look, you know, Parker, they may say, hey, listen, man, I'm just really concerned about the cash that we're going to need. I don't know if we can make this work. I don't know if we have enough. Like, what you really should know at that point, I think, what do they want to learn about? What are their hot buttons? What do you need to focus on? And as Benton said, like the Smart Start like packet, I'm not reading, you know, the 10 steps of buying a home. I'm not reading every 10 steps, right? I don't really even read any of them. I just really go through them and say, listen, especially first time home buyer, these steps are really good for you to review. You've already done the first 2, right? We're on that Smart Start call right now, but I'd love for you, you know, when you have a few minutes, maybe over the weekend, definitely go through and check out these steps, because it'll give you a really good picture of how the process is going to flow. And then, of course, if you have any questions, I'm always here for you. Feel free to ask. So yeah, well, I'm not going to sit there and read everything, because you will understand, you'll know when they start losing interest. And everybody's personality is a little bit different, you know.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, my Smart Start was 60 minutes on the dot, and I had a call it was from 4 to 5. I had a call at 5. I'm like, and it ended at like 4:59, so it's perfect. But I think an hour is plenty, right? If you're going way more than an hour, probably, you know, again, maybe they had a ton of questions, right? But 45 minutes to an hour, I think is plenty of time. So.
Yeah, I'll just say this too, to riff off of what Benton was saying. Brendan, who created the Smart Start program, is probably the one who would tell you the most that the meeting is way more about reading body language and getting there, feeling out the client and seeing what's making them, you know, tick versus material. And so I've been in Smart Starts with him because I was his assistant for about 11 months. And so I was in every single meeting. He would dead stop the meeting and totally shift gears if he wasn't sensing that the clients were reciprocating in a way where they were grasping either what we were saying, or there was friction between certain pieces, whether it's the rate or what have you. So it's definitely way more about reading the body language and making an impact versus going through the form, which is something that I go on autopilot sometimes, and I go too much into the material where I need to be more cognizant of the the other pieces of it. So yeah, Parker, I'd say definitely stay on that kind of path of just being more intentional about taking the meeting where the client needs it, meet them where they're at versus doing our thing. It's more about meeting.
Right. 100%. Yeah, I mean, Brendan, yeah, he's not shy, right? He's the first one to, like, cause disruption, break it up, but at the end of the day, you got to figure out what works, right? And what they're, are they grasping the stuff, and are they interested, are they into it, things like that. So yeah, it's important. And right, like this young lady I had last night, like, her concern was, and she makes decent money, she's a labor and delivery nurse, she does well, she's young, but we talked about the savings, right? Her rent is $1,500, her new mortgage is going to be $2,600. I know that there's a gap there. Most customers, single person, young, most people are going to think about that and say, oh geez, $1,000 more, I was hoping to get something near my rent payment. That's not happening, right? We know that. So I asked her, I showed her on the mortgage scale, I showed her the three purchase prices, 3 payments, and I asked her open-endedly. So I said, Becca, what are your thoughts when you see those payments? What are you thinking? She's like, I'm thinking it's more than I thought they'd be. I'm like, okay, right? And say, you know what? That's what everybody says. That's right. Just what the market is. It's just however, the nice thing is you're saving, what did you say before? You're saving $1,500 a month right now. Yeah. You're putting 500 into a 401k, and then another 1,000 you said you're putting in your bank account, right? She's like, yeah. So I said, so obviously there's a little bit of room to have that payment go up, right? She's like, oh yeah. She goes, I just realized that I might, instead of putting it into savings, I might be putting more into my home. I said, exactly. I said, here, in a few minutes, we're going to talk a little bit about the investment portion of owning a home and how that's going to help grow your net worth. The nice thing about a home is it's also an asset, right? So 401k is an asset, your bank account's an asset, your home's an asset. So it's all on the same side of the balance sheet. It's just a different type of asset, right? And it's diversifying. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. So just knowing and covering that and asking them, you want the objection, right? You don't want to just gloss over it. You know it's a concern. It's a concern for everybody, especially a 24-year-old nurse that's single that has $15,000 to her name. It's gonna be an issue, and it's something that you have to address. You don't want to gloss over it because those are the people that you have these meetings with, and you never hear from them again. So ask the open-ended questions. You want their concerns, you want their objections, so you can overcome it. So when we went through the rent versus own analysis, and she saw how her money's going to grow, she was like, "Oh, this is really cool. I never even thought about this." So. Good stuff. Dino is on. Dino, any thoughts here?
No, I'm just listening and taking a bunch of notes, man. All good. I think the semi-custom way everybody does it, it's like, we give you the tools and the framework, and you guys, when you use it, you get to kind of find out, where your comfort zone is or how it works best for you. And that's kind of the beauty of it. And then jumping on these calls and sharing these ideas. So no, man, thank you for hosting. Very good.
Absolutely. So we're right at quarter after. Any other final thoughts? Brian, you're on. I missed you. And Brian, what are your thoughts? I know Brian, obviously you're on my team, and Brian assists me with pre-approvals, pre-qual. So he helps me get these people through the pre-approval system. But any thoughts there, Brian, before we?
No, just trying to make some value for them. That's
right.
You can do something for them that's going to help. So
absolutely,
I think that's the fastest way to get some traction with anybody.
Yeah. So absolutely. So everybody's got some really good input, and that's why we love these calls, because you hear a little, everybody does something a little bit differently, and I think the gist here is framing it with your realtors to say, hey, look, first of all, realtors, their job is to block out time and call people, right? That's what they do. They call people. They generate prospects. They generate leads. So they respect the fact that we need to do the same thing, right? We need to call. We need to be in control. And I think if we frame it the right way, and if they understand that, hey, the results are going to be better for everybody if you refer me this way, and if I have this information where I can reach out, if they know you, they know you're not going to harass them and bug the hell out of them. I mean, they know that. So framing it and coaching them on the best way to refer, I think, is important. So hopefully you guys picked up a couple golden nuggets on how to do that, or how to tweak it, or especially with certain agents. Like I'm thinking of a couple agents, and Benton, you'll send out that intro that Andy sends. Send out to the field. Maybe incorporate that a little bit, but yeah, plug a couple of these things in. We just need to maximize the amount of, when we get that referral, right? We're not getting 50 or 100 a month anymore, right? It's a little bit lower. So we need to maximize each opportunity we have. So fine tune it, plug it in, and we'll regroup in 2 weeks and see what kind of results we have. So thanks for joining the call, everybody. Vanessa, thanks so much. We're happy to have you. You guys have a great weekend.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Michael.
thanks, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.